But you said you wanted to do that. We didn't.
I
we
didn't know
kick
you
you
were
out of
having
there.
dogs. Okay, never mind. We don't have time for more stories. Tell us about a story from your experience with catching dogs.
Okay. Yeah, there's a few. So there's this one's kind of a two-part kind of thing. So there was a little dog that was lost from a rescue up in Monrovia. So up kind of in the foothills, but it's an old section of town.
California.
Yep, California. So near the Rose Bowl. So in that area. So it's an old section of town. Really old growth trees and landscaping and that kind of thing. But also a lot of families have moved in, and now there's multiple families living on these properties. Front house, back house. So parking is a real problem, that kind of stuff. Very dark. It's the old fashioned street lights. Really cool, right? But they don't produce a lot of light. So between that and the shadows you get from the trees, you're just not, and the dog was a little black dog. So she was basically loose up there I went up there, I think, 8 times. Super hard to find at night because she's a little black dog. But part of the thing that compounded that problem was that she could be running on the sidewalk, and as you're driving, she's behind something, and you're just going to drive right by her. Or totally. She could be up hiding in the bushes that have, these are 100-year-old trees or whatever, I mean, you're in an older section of town. So there's so many places that she can hide. And we had a bunch of people out there, and we basically strategized, you guys, you're going to be on the street corner, and you're going to be looking in 2 different directions, and you just look for movement. Anything that moves, oh, it's a cat. Well, okay, it's movement, right? So finally, it was on the night that I ended up catching her. I got a call in another group that I was involved with. We got this call from an owner stating that her dog had escaped a friend who was caring for her dog. She was going through a rough time. I can't remember if it was a husband or a boyfriend, but there was some really serious stuff, like all 4 of her tires were slashed, and just like that kind of nastiness, right? So she had to get out, had to trust somebody with her dog. So anyway, we got this call and started dealing with it. And at the time, I was the one who was making the flyers for that group. And so I got it together real quick. And like right about the time that I was getting it together, there was a sighting literally 5 miles away, which is a bit excessive. But okay, so I changed it real quick. I finished it up with a new sighting location. Then as I send it out, I've already made an announcement to the rescue team that I've got waiting for me up in Monrovia. I'm running late, got this thing. Everybody's, we all love dogs. So they're like, whatever, just get here when you can. Yeah. So I get the flyer set out, and then on my way, I get a call saying, I spoke with, this is one of the people on my team that called the person who called in the sighting 5 miles away. Turns out it was a completely different dog. I don't know how it got translated into my dog is 5 miles away. So I'm like, well, I'm on my way to this deal. When I get home, every time that may be, I will change it and then resend it. So you're not going to be able to print flyers until the morning. Sorry, I'm done. I can't turn around at this point and fix it. So okay. So I go up to Monrovia, and ultimately this little dog is seen going into an open chain link rolling gate into somebody's property, and it's dark. And by this time it's, I don't know, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. So we're on a conference call, all the people involved, and I go, get the gate closed. And she's like, I already did. I'm like, good, awesome. So we all converge, and it's like, now we're going into this like duplex in the middle of the night with flashlights and stuff like that, and we don't know who lives there. We don't know what's going to happen. All of a sudden, I mean, look, if somebody's in your backyard all of a sudden with flashlights, are you going to go, oh, are you guys looking for a dog? No, you're going to come out like, what are you doing, right? Yeah. So it's a whole different thing. So one of the ladies who was involved was a former police officer. And she's just like, we're going. I'm like, okay. Okay, well, let's go. I like to try to think things through a little bit rather than just jumping fences and go. I mean, although I will and have many times, but you just got to be careful, especially when you got a lot of people in certain areas. So we go in, and she basically pushes the dog around this makeshift garage. And I obviously I've never been in this backyard before, right? I don't know if there's holes in the fences or whatever. I don't normally apply that much pressure on a dog in an area that I don't know what with all that kind of stuff. So this little makeshift garage was literally built as close to a chain link fence as you can get. I mean, literally, it's a foot and a half away at the most. So she gets to a point where this police officer, former police officer, goes, "There's spiders." So she stops. Now I got to go through. I'm like, "Oh, okay,
Tapping out.
total badass," but or whatever. So I go around and I can see this little dog going. The grass is like super tall, and I'm kind of having to go sideways and that kind of thing. I've just got a leash, and there's no room to maneuver tools and that kind of thing. And so all of a sudden I'm walking and I bang my shin up against something. I don't know what it is, but it was like an old lawnmower upside down, and then the weeds are growing. It cut open my shin, and I was like, whatever. So the dog's right there.
Were you bleeding?
Well, I found out later I was, but I didn't care at the moment.
Yeah.
So this dog is like looking back like this, kept on pushing back and pushing, and it's up against these really dense bushes and a chain link fence and the wall of this little makeshift garage. But I don't know that there's maybe a hole, that she can scoot out. And so I'm kind of blocked by this rusty whatever. I'm having to lean over, kind of put my knee on and stuff, and I get this leash, and I'm trying to put the leash over the dog's head, but she keeps on moving her head back. And finally, I was like, I just got to do it because I don't know, and we can't keep doing this. So I just went rap like that and got it around her neck and tightened it, and then she paid me back.
Oh.
She put 37 holes in me.
Yeah, she got you.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I would if you're talking about bite and release, a lot of people are like, well, they're just little dogs. Little teeth will go deeper, faster, and hit. So it's not about the pain. It's about what are they potentially hitting.
Maybe for
tendons,
you.
arteries, nerves.
Right?
Well, yeah, I'm like, this is it. So I just grabbed her at that point because I figure if she's biting me, she's not running away from me.
True.
Okay. So I whipped the leash around her mouth, and then so it's nice and tight, and all of a sudden I realized her tongue's sticking out. I'm like, oh shit. So undid it, let her pull her tongue back in, and did it again. Like, you're not biting me anymore. So I go taking her out to the rest of the people that are waiting. And it's like, open up my car, open up that trap. I'm throwing her in, right? Yeah. So I have a first aid kit that I put together based on another dog, which I expected to jam my arm in its mouth because it was an attack dog. So I put this first aid kit together. It's just, should handle just about anything that we might run into with dogs. So I'm asking this one woman, I said, I need you to get me the rubbing alcohol. And she's like, and I'm just bleeding everywhere. And she's like, well, what's that for? And I just go, I'm going to flush out everything. And she's like, well, I wouldn't do that. And I just go, I didn't ask you, just, I need you to go get it for me, right? And she goes, well, I'm a nurse. And I go, I don't care. Just give me the damn rubbing alcohol. I don't know if the dog just brushed his teeth or licked his butt.
Right.
So I'm flooding it. But what the rubbing alcohol does, and I will literally, in punctures, I'll literally flood it. I'll squirt rubbing alcohol in there.
Oh, God.
It burns, but it only burns that much. It doesn't get worse. It stings, yes. Okay, but once that reaches that peak threshold, that's as far as it's getting. I know a lot of people are like going, sorry. But that's just the way I roll. But what it does is it keeps it bleeding, which means that it pushes bacteria out.
Okay. Which hurts more, actually being bit or the rubbing alcohol?
Oh, the bites.
Okay.
Yeah. And look, the rest is just a sting. It's like, whatever.
That's why she didn't recommend flushing it with the rubbing alcohol, because it continues to bleed?
No, she was thinking that I should go in and maybe get drains and antibiotics.
Okay.
And look,
flash
medically, yes, that's the proper way to do it. But I just didn't remember asking. So,
Wait.
she was right. I mean, I'm not questioning she's right, but in that moment,
Totally.
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, and hell, I put the first aid kit, together. I'm going to use it. So anyway, but there's things about like peroxide, that breaks down tissue and that kind of stuff. So you don't want to use that, whatever. But rubbing alcohol, I can tell you one thing: as many times as I've been bitten, and it's been a lot, I've never ever had an infection.
Interesting.
Because of this. So yeah, I get all wrapped up and bleeding stops and all that kind of stuff. So on my way home, I'm just like, yeah, we got her. She's safe, and I'm just pumped. It's now 2 o'clock in the morning or something. So now I'm thinking about this other dog, and get home, and I'm wired. I'm just I'm tired, but I'm tired and wired. And on the way home, I was thinking to myself, I should just use this energy and go out and look for that other dog. But I didn't. I'm like, what are you going to do? You're by yourself. Traps are great, but they're boring. You set them out, and hopefully in the right area. You need to see that they're there. And it takes sometimes a long time, sometimes multiple days for a dog to actually go into a trap or something, right? So I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to just park and sit. So I thought, you know what? Just get home, fix the flyer, go to bed, get up in the morning, let's address it with the team and the owner. So I get home and I change the street coordinates on the flyer and I send it out and I go to bed. And this is like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. 7:30, I'm awoken by the phone ringing saying, you didn't change the city. It was one city over, so Orange versus Tustin. I'm like, oh, shit, all right. So I do it. So none of the flyers have been printed at this point. So I fix it, I resend it, and we had a woman in our group that her business allocates a certain fund every month for we can print flyers for people.
Oh, wow.
So it really helps out with some of these. If nothing else, if it gives us the ability to let's get it done now. No screwing around, not waiting for them to go to Staples or whatever. We can just get it done, and they will print it at that business. So just do it. And we've had them. They've printed like 500 flyers here. Boom, just get started and that kind of stuff. So we don't do it on everybody, and some people don't need that kind of help. Whatever. So get that done. I realize the mistake. I send it back to them. And so this woman is going to get them dropped off to these people at this company. And in the process, it's a weird blending of freeways. And if you pass it, if you pass this one spot, you have to go several off ramps around and double back. You can't just get off the next one and come back around and double back. It takes 15 to 20 minutes, to get back to that spot. So I get a call from her, and she's a vet tech. And she says, Mike, she goes, I'm not sure, but that dog may be on the freeway. Yeah. I'm like, oh. So, okay, I'm going to come with my scanner. I knew the rescue where the dog had belonged to originally. That's how kind of we got involved. So I said, just circle back and, do you have a scanner? No. Okay, well, just wait. She didn't have a scanner with her. So she doubles back and, what she was describing maybe as carpet or something on the side of the road, So by the time I get there, I pull up behind and I walk up, and sure enough, it's a dog.
Okay.
I'll just tell you how it is. So it can be sometimes pretty rough to deal with these kinds of situations. But personally, I feel an extreme obligation to be certain of what it is that we're seeing. So this dog had been hit in the number 2 lane. And you could see from the evidence the trajectory that it was pushed, how it got to the side of the road. It was very difficult to determine where the shoulder blades were to check for the chip. There was also a large hole in the side of the dog. And upon first scanning everything that you can, nothing was coming up. And there was still evidence on the freeway, and you could see that based on the coloring and her body condition at that point, uh, this dog probably died at about 3 in the morning.
Okay.
When I was thinking about going back out.
Oh.
So, that just goes like, oh my God, what could I have done? Anything. And, obviously way later than that, I could have actually caused that.
True.
Right? But in either case, whatever it was that was in her mind, she was so scared to cause her to run out on the freeway to get hit.
Yes.
I couldn't have probably stopped that, prevented it, changed it. It's just, it's one of those things. But for being this thorough, I mean, I had even talked to my friend who was there, and like I said, she's a vet tech, and so she's, hurt by it, but I mean, she deals with things like that. So when I told her, I said, the chip could have even been ejected.
Right.
So to be 100% certain, I put the scanner in my hand, basically inside the body, and then I got the chip.
Oh. Was it the dog?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, I called up the woman from the side of the road, and it was a process getting her into, a blanket, and that kind of stuff, and wrapping her up.
Did it seem like it happened quickly and she did?
Oh, it was instantaneous. 100%. There was zero suffering.
What a blessing.
There was fear. Had to have been. But yeah, no, it was 100% lights out.
Okay.
It's, the only blessing, really.
Yeah.
Other than the connection. Sorry. Yeah, there's dogs that get you and will always hurt. So this is one. But this dog, we wrapped her up, got her taken care of. I called the owner. She was at work, and she completely broke down. Understandably, right? She wanted to come, and I told her, I said, this is not what you want to see as a last impression, the last sight. You just don't. So it's your dog, but I'm telling you right now, you hold what she was. You hold that. And because of all the things that she was going through, somebody that we know offered to do the cremation and that kind of thing. Yeah. So her name was Stella. So I take her to this vet, and she's in my car, and I'm coming in, and there's 2 women at the desk, and I'm hearing one of them discussing something, and all of a sudden I'm starting to think like, what the hell are you talking about? And I look at the other one and I said, is she talking about the dog that was found this morning with a rescue collar on, but wasn't the rescue and is chipped to somebody else? And she's looking at me like, and even the woman on the phone kind of stops and looks at me like, how the hell do you know this? So it was a dog that had been found tied up in Seal Beach or something. And it had a collar with a tag that belonged to a rescue. But it wasn't their dog. Somebody just found a collar and a tag and put it on this dog and tied up. We don't know what the order of things were or whatever, but it was not that rescue's dog. And I know them. And so then when they scanned the chip, it was scanned, or it belonged to a rescue, more of an organization that helps homeless people in Orange County throughout the Santa Ana riverbed, the homeless community up there. So the dog was actually chipped to them. But it was this whole story that I heard about in the morning, and because I knew of the people, and here I am at this obscure little vet, and here they are talking about it.
Wow.
And then I see, as I'm waiting, there's a couple that comes in, and they're pretty broken up. And they get ushered into a room. And a few minutes later, somebody comes from the back holding this little puppy, like a little 8-month-old or something, and they go into that same room. And so at that point, the woman who was on the phone looks at me and, Stella's still in the car. We hadn't had time to get everything done. They're fairly busy. So she looks at me and she goes, "What was that dog's name that you're bringing in?" And I said, "Stella." And she just went, and she goes, "Did you see that puppy? That dog's name was Stella." Like, okay, this is getting, really bizarre. So, we take care of everything, and it was just weird. All these weird things are happening, right? So I bring Stella in, and they take care of her. So I go home. Now, the next day, I don't even know what the deal was, but I'm driving on the freeway, and I'm making a lane change, and then all of a sudden, I just felt something so bizarre. Like, all of a sudden, I got super cold for a second, beyond chills, but it wasn't like, oddly, it wasn't uncomfortable. And all of a sudden, I realized I had just driven over the spot where Stella was killed.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's so bizarre, And I mean, I can't drive by that spot today. It doesn't impact me the same. But I wasn't even thinking about anything. But it is if like I drove through her.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting when you get these dogs. There's some that just stick with you, and it's like we've all lost dogs, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one, crazy enough to kind of have conversations with them, in the quiet times,
not just you.
and whatever spirit it is that they leave with us, they're still always a part of us,
Without a doubt.
So the thing that I can take comfort in about Stella was that she knew the intention. So
She did.
it's comfortable, comforting rather, but still, I mean, obviously, it just sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know that she has, helped me find other dogs or anything like that, but it shifts your mind, and it can open up parts of you to accept that, you look at giving birth and as a baby, it's a painful process to be born. And it will always be that same on the way out. But beyond that, what is it? And I mean, I think most religions believe that there is, life after death, right? So that energy and that spirit is like it's there, and you can connect to it. It's not like you're
Certainly.
calling a phone number or whatever, but either way, it definitely helps you learn and helps you take these lessons with you along the way and apply things. So sometimes when I see animals that didn't make it as shitty as it was, they know the efforts that were made for them, and they're okay. So
I
it sucks
agree
to
with
always
that.
be. It sucks to be the one that's left to process that, but they are okay. So yeah. So everything, every little experience comes back and
Or,
plays with others.
yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, two prog. One was happy ending of him bleeding a lot, and the other one was a very meaningful, carry it forward, kind of a message.
Absolutely.
So
But you know that you couldn't have done anything.
yeah,
Even if you went out.
yeah,
It was written in the stars already.
yeah. And the thing is too is that it can be a problem if you are forcing yourself into a situation, because you can actually affect the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, you can witness it. And that would be far different than the way that I
Certainly.
experienced
Oh,
this.
yeah.
So, there's going to be, sometimes in some people and that sort of thing where they're going to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, Charlie. If I have owners that I know that this dog is crossing streets and that kind of stuff, and that's always been a concern with some of these dogs in urban environments, I always tell the owners, look, I guarantee you, if you see your dog in the middle of the street, you close your eyes, you do nothing. They have an inherent timing. It's just they can sense these things. And yes, we see dogs that have been hit by cars all the time. But the one thing I can guarantee you is that if you allow your emotions to be injected in the scene, it will cause a pause.
Mm-hmm.
It'll throw 'em off.
It will change the timing. And I can guarantee you the outcome is going to be negative. The other, if you just go cover your eyes and hope for the best, is 50-50.
Odds are higher.
But I guarantee it, it's not going to be that way if you change that timing. If that pause is like, oh, and then I go, oh, here's another person, not recognizing that that's mom screaming at me. It's just another person screaming. It's either going to accelerate their timing or delay it. And in either case, more than likely, it's not going to end well.
What an interesting way to look at that scenario.
Yeah, and it sucks. And I had to have a conversation with somebody with Nugget. Was it Charlie before? Anyway, Nugget.
Yeah.
This little black chihuahua that I had who was running around out in the middle of the night and that kind of stuff. And so it hurt. And she understood. So, but it's tough. So these guys, some of these rescues can hurt a lot worse than being bitten.
We know.
Yeah.
But I think what you say about when they are gone, and having been through that ourselves with the shift in energy, although their physical form is no longer there.
Yeah.
Their energy still is.
Yeah.
And when you're as intuitive and connected as you are with so many of these dogs, you know that.
Yeah.
So
it's still hard to swallow at first.
It really is.
And afterwards, I mean, even this was 5 years ago at least.
And you still carry her with you. She's still with you. She lives on. And she, I'm sure, continues to guide you in what you do here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with
Yeah.
us.
Most of them are happier than that. Like I said,
it's not
it's
what I
nothing
thought
else.
I was getting
I know. But like I said, there's all forms of these rescues.
Yeah.
Some of them are super simple, and the dogs are super happy. Some of them are rough on the dogs, and ultimately they're okay. Like on strays, dogs that are out in the desert that have grown up out there. A lot of people say, "Oh, leave them alone," that kind of stuff. They're better. I have a hard time with that. But so sometimes it's really rough on them, but ultimately they're good. Sometimes it's really rough on them, and then the next day or 2 or 3 days they're good. It's just this kind of stuff. This street rescue, if you want to call it that, is very broad in how everything. And bottom line is, I can't just let them out there. I can't turn my eyes the other way, things like that. So, however they are, when we get them, we deal with that.
That's right.
So.
That's right.
Well, I think it's also so amazing to tell their stories. Their stories need to be told.
Yeah.
Regardless of the outcome.
Yeah. There's a lot, I think, that people see on the internet about dogs that are trapped and everybody's huddled around them, smiling and taking pictures afterwards and all that kind of stuff. And it gives us like this false, there's just this whole false thing about it, how it was easy and everybody's happy. And there's tragedy involved, and there's hard work, and there's fear on the part of the dog, a lot of that. And sometimes that fear is not pretty to watch. But once they're secured and they're safe, and to watch them relax and breathe through that, and even if it's months of maybe training or conditioning or decompressing, whatever, at the end, it's all worth it.
Absolutely.
So, but people don't see that. And so that's one of the things that I would like to kind of share with people is like, it's not what you see always that it's how it is. And there will be things that, components of this that you can learn from and not make the same mistakes that others make. Processes of how to deal with a dog that's loose and running, that's fearful.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that kind of stuff that people can learn from and ultimately save more dogs.
Yeah. Thank you for putting this somewhere where everybody can learn from it.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys getting involved too.